Before we begin, don't forget to subscribe to the channel, like this video, and share it with your friends. Your support helps us bring more heartfelt stories to life. It was a cold December night in Paris. The wind from the River Seine carried the scent of rain, weaving through the streets like a ghost. Golden light from the Eiffel Tower shimmered in the distance, casting trembling reflections on the water. On the edge of the platform at Gare d'Austerlitz, Amelia stood alone, her hair damp and tangled from the rain, clutching a small, wrinkled letter. Paper was soft from being handled too often, its edges curling from the moisture. She closed her eyes for a moment, and the world around her faded, replaced by memories that came rushing back in fragments. 2 years earlier, she had been nothing more than a café waitress in Saint-Germain, a narrow little place tucked between an old bookshop and a flower stall. Café wasn't famous, but in winter its warm light and the rich scent of coffee drew in people like moths to a flame. It was there she first saw Lucien, tall, with deep brown eyes that seemed to hold storms and secrets. His voice was low, with a softness that made his French sound like a song after the rain. Lucien wasn't an ordinary man. He was a war correspondent, the kind who went to the front lines, to places the rest of the world only saw in headlines. Over coffee, he told her stories of Ukraine, of Syria, of villages swallowed by silence after bombs. His words frightened her, yet she was drawn to him as if some invisible string pulled her closer every time he spoke. Their meetings became a quiet ritual. They would sit by the Seine until the city lights blurred into the night, or walk hand in hand through Paris's winding streets, speaking only with glances and gentle smiles. But one evening, Lucien told her he had to leave again. Just one last mission, he promised. Then, he said, he would come back and never leave her side. But promises are fragile things. 2 months later, the news came. Lucien had gone missing in a war zone. Official reports hinted at an ambush, enemy territory, no confirmed survivors. Friends told her to accept it, to grieve. But Amelia refused. Her heart didn't believe what her ears had heard. She searched endlessly. She spoke to journalists, bribed soldiers, pored over every report. And when all leads failed, she made the most dangerous choice of her life. She went to find him herself. The journey was brutal. She wore his old weathered jacket, the red scarf he had given her wrapped tightly around her neck. The world she entered was not Paris. It was a place where streets were lined with rubble, where the sound of gunfire was as constant as breathing, where the air itself smelled of smoke and fear. Weeks turned to months. She crossed borders she was never meant to cross, learned to hide from drones, learned that fear could be carried quietly inside your chest without showing on your face. And then, one night, in the basement of a crumbling building, she found him. Lucien was thin, pale, with a scar cutting across his cheek. His eyes widened when he saw her, disbelief mixing with the flicker of life he had almost lost. She fell to her knees beside him, arms around him, holding on as if her grip alone could keep him in the world. Back in Paris, the city felt different. People called her a hero. She didn't care. Her victory wasn't in the headlines. It was in the quiet mornings when Lucien would wake beside her, when she could make him tea, when they could walk through the rain again. But the war had left its mark. The doctors said his heart was damaged beyond repair, the result of months of hardship and hunger. Time, they told her, was short. So she became his shadow. She held the umbrella for both of them when it rained. She read him books in bed. She watched him with the kind of love that memorizes every breath, because it knows there will be a last one. Lucien never complained. In fact, he smiled more. One snowy evening, as the flakes drifted past their window, he took her hand and said softly, "When I'm gone, remember this, you didn't just save me from death. You gave me life." 2 days later, Lucien died in her arms. Now, at the river's edge, Amelia stood with his last letter. She had read it too many times to count. She kissed the paper, tasting the salt of her own tears, then struck a match. The flames curled the edges, consuming the words. The smoke rose into the Paris sky, disappearing into the night, perhaps carrying his final message to wherever he was now. The rain had stopped. The city lights shimmered. But in her heart the storm raged on.